Hey everyone, it's Mr. Hollywood, and today I'm gonna be ranking the Rocky and Creed movies from the worst to the best. And before I get started, I actually just want to say right off the bat, I like all these movies. However, some are definitely better than others. Some are like enjoyable but flawed. Some are mostly great but still have their issues, and then some of them are near perfection. Now, coming in at number 9, the worst between all the Rocky and Creed movies. This might be a bit of a hot take, but it'll be Rocky 2. Now, I still like this movie, however, it feels like the same film as the first film in some ways, however, just not as good. And the final fight in this was easily the worst final fight in the Rocky franchise, because like just the way that like Rocky guys first win, like it's just like the entire premise of the first film was that like Rocky doesn't believe in himself, and I feel like there was a bit of a too quick a transition from the first to second for Rocky to like all of a sudden be like the best fighter out there. I feel like they should have built it up through like 3 movies. Now this movie still has great world building. Like it still has great acting, and it does continue Rocky's character arc really well. It's just the one that I'm least likely to rewatch anytime soon. Now coming in at number 8 is Rocky 5. Now I know a lot of people hate this film. I wasn't one of them. It had a lot of good moments. It actually had a cool storyline going where basically Rocky's kid is getting bullied at school because because he's the son of Rocky and he wants to live up to his father. I think that's an interesting premise. And then also the fact that Rocky can't necessarily trust everyone because he trains this kid, and then the kid literally betrays him later. So it has a very interesting plot. Now, this movie could be a little generic at times, and it still has some like stuff that like it just feels like a little bit hard to get through at times. However, I still really enjoyed this film. Now, coming in at number 7 is Creed 2. Now, this is easily the weakest of the Creed trilogy. However, it's still really good, and it has a lot of good stuff going for it. However, the final 20 minutes, I feel like it's a little bit of a strange idea how basically the last time you ever see Rocky is when he just sees his kid. It's like, I feel like either Rocky should have died the way that another character died in the original Rocky trilogy, which we'll get into in just a bit, or Rocky should have retired. Like, I feel like they should have built it up a bit. Now, obviously, this leads into production trouble for Creed 3, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the last 20 minutes knowing where the story would go. However, it still continues Creed's arc really well, and it feels like an interesting story throughout the whole trilogy, where Creed wants to live up to his father. I think that's another interesting premise, that Creed was destined to fail, and he learns to get back up. I think this film still is a really good film. It's just not the best of the Rocky films. Now coming in at number 6, and I've seen a lot of people put this towards the top, and that is Rocky 4. Which, mind you, this film is still really good. It's just not my favorite. And I just think the reason it's not my favorite is because like some of the plot music they played in this was very unnecessary. And I wasn't the biggest fan of like the world building. Like I feel like Rocky 3, I feel like the transition from Rocky 3 to this feels like a little bit unbalanced. Now still, Ivan Drago is a really good villain. It has stakes, it has motives, and I think this does do a great job at continuing Rocky's arc after, he lost Apollo Creed in this. And, it just, it ties into, the rest of the Rocky films before Creed of, how he feels like he's responsible for Creed's death. I feel like this film really elevates Rocky's character arc, and it is a much more cohesive story than the bottom three. Now, coming in at number 5 is its predecessor, Rocky 3. Yeah, I prefer Rocky 3 a little more than Rocky 4, and I think you could say a bit of the same thing. However, I feel like it has a little bit more of a central story going to it, and Mickey's death was a very pivotal part to Rocky's arc, which they also tied in a little later for Rocky Balboa. And I just think Rocky, feeling like he might not want to be a boxer anymore, which is something that they've one of my problems with this though is that it feels like the other films felt like a completely separate story until Rocky Balboa. So that's why this is not my number 1. I feel like there's many times where Rocky was gonna retire and he never did. I feel like they should not have rehashed his storyline 3 times. Granted, this film is still a great film and it is a great end to Rocky's phase of life. Now, coming in number 4 is Rocky Balboa, a great end to the original Rocky saga before they rebooted it with Creed. And I really do like this film. I think it also just shows, where Rocky finally wants to retire and not do boxing anymore. And I think this is the best time where they got that storyline. And it has a great final battle, easily the best between the original 6 final battles, where Rocky, he feels like he doesn't just want to win. He just wants to have a good fight and get on the ring one last time, which is something I think they did really well. And this is easily the most cohesive story in the Rockies, in between Rocky 4 through 6. And this film does close out the original Rocky saga really well. Now, we have made it in our top 3. And at this point, this is kind of a subjective list, and I've only seen Creed 3 once as of when I'm recording this. So, I could rewatch it and have a completely different top 3. However, my number 3 of the Rocky movies is Creed 3. I really like this movie. I highly recommend it. This film closes out the Creed trilogy really well, and this film actually surprised me a little bit because I thought it was going to be good, but didn't know how they were going to do it without Sylvester Stallone. And if anything, it might have elevated this film a little bit, where they had the spotlight all on Creed. Its 2 predecessors, it felt more like a film where they weren't entirely interested in Creed. He was kind of a side character. In this, he was actually felt like they gave him front and center, and it really worked. And Jonathan Majors is easily the best antagonist in the Rocky franchise. And I'm just going to tell you, that final fight at the end, top 3 final fight in this entire franchise, I really do like this film. I highly recommend it. However, there are still 2 that are better. Now, at this point, you're kind of picking your favorite child. However, there's no such thing as ties on a Mr. Hollywood video. So, my number 2 is the original Creed. Yeah, I really do like this movie. I think it does a great job at starting Creed's origin, where, Creed grew up in a child prison, and then this person took him in, and, how he barely knew who his father was, And then, he found out his father was one of the best boxers of all time, and he really wants to live up to his father. And I think that's a really interesting storyline that they tackle very nicely throughout the entire trilogy. And this film honestly feels a little similar to the first Rocky. However, that's not a bad thing, because there's also a lot of differences to keep you engaged. And I think that final fight, where Creed just finally gets in the ring and has a clean fight where he just wants to put up a good fight, it hits hard. And I really love this film, and I do highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But my number one is the one that started it all, Rocky. I mean, what is there not to love about this film? It has great world building, great acting, great writing. It was remarkable what Sylvester Stallone was able to pull off. And a legend was born when you see Rocky for the first time. It explores Rocky's life really nicely. And how Rocky always has the potential to be a great boxer. However, he never was able to find his confidence until he started boxing. In that final fight, where he gets on the ring for the first time, easily top 3 final fights in this entire franchise. I just think this fight is great, and just the final fight was great, and I just think the whole film was amazing. So, without question, this is my favorite of the Rocky movies. Now, thanks for watching. Feel free to share your ranking down below in the comments. And, well, we had some other stuff upcoming this week. So, yeah. Stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and peace out.